Women are blaming each other for feminism. Women are blaming each other for feminism. Guys, this is something that we were told would happen. I used to have a friend named Paul. He was a large part of the manosphere, and he said that when, like for example, the roosters fly away, the chicken they begin henpecking each other. Watch the end of this video to fully understand the implications of why women are blaming one another and how this is going to affect all of us going forward into society. And now let's just go ahead and jump right into the first video.
Attention for sharing her regrets about ditching the idea of marriage and family. Now, her article in Business Insider reads, quote, "I'm 38 and single, and I recently realized I want a child. I'm terrified that I've missed my opportunity." That woman's name is Melissa Persling, and she's revealing to Fox News Digital what she thinks caused her current situation. Listen.
I feel unbelievably betrayed by feminism. I was constantly fed this idea that women can do everything. We don't really need men. Women can have the great career and have the kids that they like and change the tires and do this. I mean, I grew up thinking, and men are great, but like I can do all the same things. I do feel in many ways betrayed by that line of thinking. I kind of want to go back to some of those teachers and coaches and say, what the hell did you mean by that? Because women can't do it all. We can't.
Katrina, what are your thoughts on this?
Okay, I'm going to go deep here. So I have a lot of opinion on this, and I really think that feminism in some ways has really sabotaged women's happiness. And the reason I believe that is because we are asked to do all these different things, right? But then our nervous system goes whack. Like I know for myself, I'm in work mode and then mother mode and then family mode, right? And so your system just completely goes out of whack, which is why I truly believe, and I found this quote and I thought it was so telling, is that the divine feminine is the rawest, wildest, and most honest mirror a man will ever encounter. The awakened man opens his heart and goes to battle. He will tame his dragons and face his deepest shadows, since he knows that deep within, her heart will guide him home. And I think that there is a beautiful balance between the feminine and the masculine energy. And I know that as a woman, regardless of what any woman says, I think she wants to feel safe with a man, and she wants to be able to feel her feminine energy, but it's very difficult to go into that space when you're trying to fulfill all these different roles, which is what I think this woman is feeling right now, which is what I think a lot of women, right, in very powerful positions are feeling. And then there's this idea that if you're powerful, you can't be, a beautiful wife or a beautiful mother. And so I think we need to go back to really the way God designed us to be, which is as women, we need men. And it makes for a beautiful balance.
Chris, something that struck me about this is something that Katrina mentioned earlier, which is your influences start in the home. So the moral of this story to me was that she felt betrayed by her influences. But if she had been influenced a certain way in the home, then there wouldn't have been confusion. Does that make sense?
It does, and I really like the points you just made. I think that, this is a little bit of a weird topic for me to talk about, but we grew up with parents. I grew up with parents that had my brother and I when they were in their early 20s, okay? And that was their decision. That was great. My wife, Lily, decided to, she's an entrepreneur. She built her business in her early 20s and early 30s, and we didn't have kids till we were in our mid-30s. And she struggled with this early on a little bit. But this is where I think, as a man and as her husband and her protector, I take my personal responsibility to be her greatest advocate and her greatest cheerleader for everything that she's doing, everything that she's accomplished, everything she has to balance as a woman. And I think...
guys, this is very, very interesting. So you have women who are basically now saying that feminism got us everything that we wanted, but it's no longer making us happy. So we want to keep everything that feminism got for us, but we also want our happiness back. Does that make any damn sense to you? And then how are they going to accomplish this? Men, you need to make us happy. Like, that's such an absolute load of BS. You have to understand something. Women will forever portray themselves as victims. They are powerful victims, men are pathetic villains. As soon as a crisis passes and men are no longer needed, they return right back to their ways of demonizing men and pushing men out of society. You have to understand that this very notion of feminism, it's something that originated long before the label was there. You have to comprehend this. Just like most women do not understand the word misogyny, and they cannot define it. The average woman cannot define misogyny because it's a catch-all term to basically use to shame and insult men today and gaslight them when women do not even know what the term misogyny actually means. Misogyny is the hate and contempt for women and girls. So if you say something disrespectful to a woman, that is not an act of misogyny. An act of misogyny is actual hatred. So just to say something disrespectful, even an act of sexism is not an act of misogyny. But now they catch it. They do a catch-all, and they basically put everything under the concept of misogyny, and the average woman does not understand what the word misogyny is. There are so many examples of where a woman will call men misogynist, and then a man will just simply say, "What's a misogynist?" And they'll go, you got me there. You got me there. Yeah, you caught me. I don't actually know what the word means. I've just heard it, so I just regurgitate it." There was one situation where a woman was calling men misogynist. I think it was on the Whatever podcast. And someone just basically said, "What's a misogynist?" And she broke down into tears and asked if she could just go, because she could not actually define the word misogyny. And it just revealed just how foolish her behavior had been. She was spitting all of this vitriol towards men, and she could not even explain why. And when she was asked, "What's the word misogyny mean?" she basically said that she did what they all do. She broke down into tears and said if she could just go. Because this is how they operate in Western society. You have to remember that these people don't like us. Most of us don't even have the love of our mothers. As men, we go through life and we suffer, we struggle, and that's it. And women just if there's one thing that women use to aid them, it's lies and gaslighting. It's a continuous amount of lies. This is the reason why, as I get older, I don't feel bad lying. Like I used to, there was this whole notion. I see some of you idiots in the comments like, never lie, always tell the truth. Let me tell you something. Law enforcement pulls you over and they're asking you questions, right? You're a freaking idiot to implicate yourself. A lot of you don't raise your children properly to understand that this world is out to destroy them. This world is out to destroy you as a man. As a man, you need to know when to keep your mouth shut, and you need to know when to lie. Sometimes lies can save your life, okay? They can get you a job. They can save your life. We do not live in an honest world. The only one that you cannot lie to is God. That's the honest to goodness truth. And I'm not saying that you should spend your entire life being a liar. There's a big difference. But you have to know when to lie. Sometimes lies can save relationships. Many of you will go, "I don't care." Okay? You're just putting a band-aid on it. Listen to me. They are white lies that are necessary sometimes. Sometimes you don't feel like going out and you just say, you tell the person a lie because you're either trying to save face or you're trying to keep a relationship. And the person would have just rathered that you lied to them rather than telling them, "Listen, man, I don't want to hang out with you. I'm just not feeling you right now." That's how you destroy a relationship. Some of you are like, "I don't care." Okay, I don't give a shit if you care or not. I'm going to be very honest. Okay? This is wisdom from Uncle Angry. This is 100% wisdom from Uncle Angry. Understanding how the world works and how to navigate the world. Because this is a harsh world. This is a vitriolic world. This is a world that absolutely hates you and wants to destroy you. And you have to be aware of these things. You have to be aware of these things.
to know what fucking sucks? I'll tell you what fucking sucks.
What sucks?
Shoveling a ton of gravel. That fucking sucks.
Yeah, if you got lady muscles.
The whole entire time I'm shoveling, all I'm thinking is, who the are the women that wanted equal rights? The women's movement. Who wanted to do the man's work? Because I fucking didn't. I'd rather be inside making sandwiches and serving iced tea. Fuck this bullshit. I don't want
She's
to
too
be
through.
equal. I don't want any part of being equal. I will make sandwiches. I will cook dinner. I will wear an apron. I will clean house. I'll vacuum. I'll do whatever I gotta do to keep from fucking shoveling rock. And the difference between TikTok and Facebook is after I get this shit done, I'm going to get on Facebook and brag about everything I accomplished and how fucking happy I am. But just know the truth. I'm pissed. I'm not happy. It doesn't make me feel good. No part of it. Don't want to do it.
I can wear pants. I can wear a top that shows most of my body. And I continue to do so because of all the women who fought for that. Women have the right.
Women didn't fight for you to walk around looking like a whore, okay? That's not what they fought for. They fought for your right to vote, their right for your education, the right for you to play a sport.
Feminism or low gas prices?
I guess low gas prices, because ever since the feminist movement, it's been a lot harder for me to find a guy to pay my bills. And all of a sudden I have to work and I have to do all these things. And I honestly don't want to work. I would rather stay in the kitchen. Mind you, I need some cooking classes, but I think I could take a couple cooking classes and make somebody really happy.
Actions matter. This is what happens. You think, oh, it's fine. They just might not open the door for us because of all the raging feminists. But you can't act out. Society does change. There is such thing as social engineering. People change their behavior. And guess what? 9 times out of 10, women end up in a really bad situation. Like, she can't get anybody to help her up. Those dudes aren't checking for her. They're not even gonna look at her. They're gonna ignore her. Yeah, we need help. I don't know. It's just like nonstop. Like, let's stop acting out and let's act correct. And at least make the perception that we're not going to perpetuate negative behaviors. Come on. Like, set an example. Like, if you do see someone acting out, make sure to, like, respond accordingly. But luckily, a woman did come, rush over and help her up. But yeah, great point.
I'm gonna get called a pick me. I already know, but I don't care. Why is it that modern feminism just promotes this idea that absolutely nothing is a woman's fault ever? Even in her own life, her own choice. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. It's men. It's all men. And I get these comments all the time saying like, oh, you're shaming women because they got abused, or you're shaming women because they got, hurt by a man or whatever. You're shaming them like it's their fault. First of all, no, I'm not. It's not your fault that a man is evil and abusive. Okay, that's not your fault. You're not responsible for that. But you are responsible for yourself and the positions that you put yourself in. And me personally, if I was consistently choosing these absolute garbage men to date, marry, whatever it is, that are consistently abusing me, I think it's fair that you should self-reflect. Like, you can sit there all day long and go, men are horrible, men are trash, men are this. Okay, but is that helping you? Is that serving you? Is that mindset getting you anywhere? No. So instead, why don't you take a little responsibility, self-reflect, and evaluate, why is it that I keep choosing these horrible people? And then correct that. And do better for yourself and have a good life instead of whining and crying all the time that men are so horrible. Not all men are horrible.
Here's, guys, they're going after one another now. They're attacking one another right now. They're blaming each other right now for feminism, because feminism is ruining their lives. And then these women, they go online and they pretend and they act like, this woman even said in the last video that she was going to go online after cutting grass and picking up poop and all this other stuff and act and talk about how empowered she is and all this other BS, when in reality she's just coping, and no one wants to be out there doing this garbage. No one wants to be out there shoveling manure. No one wants to be out there doing backbreaking labor in the sun. All right. They would rather be inside in the kitchen making sandwiches, making lemonade, and waiting for their husband to come back. Okay? But this is the path that they have chosen. And guys, there's no going back from this. The average man is not going to settle for a woman who's been out in the streets for decades. Okay? You have so many women today have higher body counts than women who worked than women who worked as professionals decades ago. All right? Like you have a higher body count than a woman who worked as a professional many decades ago. This is crazy. Absolutely crazy. All right. And in this case, these women they were just giving it up for free to Chad and Tyrone because they could not control themselves, to Little Pancho because they could not control themselves. Okay. Even Sancho got a hit. Oh yeah. Sancho, brother of Pancho. They all got a turn. The good men who are actually providing for society, actually care, that are decent, these are the guys that they crap upon. These are the guys that they treat poorly. These are the guys that they humiliate and demoralize. These are the men. Guys, women are so the level of narcissism is you can do something for a woman. You don't even want to do it. They will bug the living heck out of you to do something for them. And right after they help you, they will bite the hand that feeds them. And then as soon as they need you again, that's when they will come back and act like everything is okay and try to weasel their way back in. And then again, as soon as they get what they want, they'll bring the same BS back to you. This is how they're wired. Women are hardwired to create chaos within our lives. If a man, guys, this is something that men don't know. This is why Uncle Angry had to learn these things, all right, the hard way. And some of you, like, you come to my channel, you put your garbage out here and you disagree. If you want to disagree, that's fine. But when you're so vitriolic, go away and don't come back. And then don't create another account and like post and pretend to be someone you're not. All right. If you are a troll or you are those people who are like, well, I don't agree with you, fine. But you cause problems in my life, don't come back. Don't create another account and pretend to be someone else because now you need to, because you went out there into the world and you learned the hard way. Let me tell you something about women. A lot of women, they're in a relationship with a man. Okay? And it doesn't have to be a relationship. This could be your mother. This could be your sister. This could be a family member. This is how women, they are mentally wired. And they will see you peacefully or just choosing to not mess around with them. And they will create conflict. They will find a way to create conflict. And you can see the big grin on their faces sometimes because they cannot hide their excitement when they are able to rile you up. Because if they're able to rile you up, that means that you still somehow care about them. Okay? Now some Sims are like, well, even if that's true, that if you were doing your job and expressing your feelings and showing your admiration for them, they wouldn't have to do something like that. The reason why they're creating that conflict is because you don't want to open up. All right? You're clearly doing something wrong. An adult does not behave like that. You see, simps will literally excuse anything away. All right? What they want is they want attention, and they want to know that they can still create conflict in the relationship and keep you engaged. Because there are a lot of relationships where women will go and create conflict, and the man basically doesn't even reciprocate anymore. They try to create conflict, and the guy is so completely disconnected from that relationship that he's just done. It doesn't matter what the woman says, doesn't matter what the woman does. He's just done. Just done. I used to have a subscriber, what was it, Airhead Nomad? I haven't seen the guy around in a while. And he talked about, I remember, his brother who was married and how disconnected his brother was from his relationship. And he, mentioned how, like, his brother's wife was going out of town, and his brother was basically saying that he could basically care whether or not she's there or not, whether or not she's home or not, something along those lines. And the interesting thing about this is that that's what happens when a man basically disconnects from the relationship. He no longer cares. For example, she's going out of town, maybe visiting family or whatever. Bro, she's going to get her cheeks clapped. And at this point, the man no longer cares. The man no longer cares what she's out there doing. He no longer cares about the relationship. He no longer cares about her. And women are the ones who created this. They created these disparities within the relationship because it is something ingrained with them to create conflict and crisis around them. Because you have to understand that women spend most of their lives living in chaos. It's a crazy realization, but it is something that men have to wake up to and understand so that they can survive.
All women are good, but you can be good and you can make good choices. I don't know. I just feel like sitting here and telling women that nothing is their fault it's not helping anyone. It's just not. And I know there's people that are going to sit there and go, that's not what's happening. Is that what's happening with every single person in the world? No, I'm not addressing every single woman in the world. I'm addressing the ones who think this way, because there are women who think this way and they live in my comment section. Every woman is capable of making better choices for herself. Don't be a victim. Don't waste your time sitting there blaming men for all your problems. Be smart, make good choices. You're capable. Do better for yourself. You deserve better.
Boys suck. They are so dumb. Literally at every age, so freaking dumb. And you know what? They don't even want to change. And now the world knows it. Thanks, feminism. So why do I think it's a problem of feminism versus boys? Let's start with when they're young. Boys and girls are different, but we live in a society that doesn't seem to want to acknowledge nor nurture those differences. And when they do...
The future is female.
It gives me hope.
It's kind of sick.
Got detention just for flicking up a girl's skirt.
What? That's it.
Doesn't she know that's just boys being boys?
Yeah, I mean, I've already accepted that as I grow up, I'll probably be harassed and even abused.
Sorry. That's not what I meant.
I think I threw up a little. Instead of finding healthy ways to encourage the differences in boys, we have largely female faculties that don't hesitate to tell them to sit down, sit still, pay attention, or it's the ADHD pills for you. It's like we want them to be girls. Well, and then they get to college. Well, why even go to college at all?
Men attending colleges has dropped to 40% in the past academic year.
Men aren't even welcomed there. The very broad brush of feminism has painted every guy on campus as an evil participant.
You know something, guys, I was curious about. So, I was looking at something that Trump said, that he gave a lot of money to HBUs, historically black universities. And I thought, and you see these pictures of all these young black men, and like they're showing these young black men graduating from these universities, and they're not going to graduate with student loan debt. And I'm thinking, wow, and oh wow, they have a school of medicine. Oh my gosh, must be nice. And then I Google what percentage of these universities are actually men, and you discover 70% of these HBUs are women. 70% of these historically black universities are women. And I know that should not surprise me, but it's just amazing the image that they portray. Like you had oh, we're graduating all of these young black men. Bro, 70% of historically black universities are women. This means that a black man has a better chance of graduating, of going to and graduating from a predominantly and historically predominantly white university than he does from a historically black university. Guys, something is wrong with America. So I have a master's in applied psychology. One of my talents is analyzing statistics. And that's, guys, when I start to see things like this, it's freaky as hell. That's when the math ain't mathing, or you don't want to accept the numbers, because that's not supposed to be happening. That's not supposed to be a possibility. How the hell could you have higher rates of graduation and attendance for black males at predominantly white universities versus predominantly and historically black universities. What? Guys, this is how women have taken society and completely twisted it in such a way that it now the future is basic. When they say the future is female, they meant dominance. They meant the future is females dominating society. The future is female is a society that is predominantly female, predominantly centered around women, and one where men may no longer exist one day, or if they do, they will basically be within the shadows of society at a reduced number, in a reduced quantity. That's really what they mean, guys. It's basically a slogan of supremacy. It's sick, guys. It's very, very sick.
Of rape culture and the misogynistic patriarchy that's trying to keep women down. By teaching women to climb the corporate ladder and to date without intention.
Why do some women have such an obsession with being on top?
Families aren't being created. Families in which both mother and father are present. And then, having removed the male influence, they turn around and blame men for the problematic men that they've created. I'll let the man who said it best say it again.
You give them this message that it's okay to be a man.
It's not okay. It's necessary. What the hell are we going to do without men?
Your question. What would our world look like without sons, brothers, fathers, husbands, and uncles? It has taken raising sons for me to realize how toxic society can be towards men. Oh, the good ones are taken. The future is female, or men need to behave, are constantly tossed around, cloaked in feminism or equality. But why is this okay? Simply being female doesn't make you better than a man. Men do not deserve to bear the brunt of another man's actions any more than a female. Men do not deserve to be judged by their gender, just like women. The future is female doesn't even make any sense. I'm blessed to have had quite a few good ones in my life, role models I know my sons will learn from, but that's not to say I haven't known a few bad apples. I just don't allow those experiences to define half of the human race. If you think along the lines of men need to behave, the future is female, or the good ones are taken, maybe ask yourself why you deserve one of the good ones when you make no room for positive masculinity.
Really have a right to be treated respectfully.
We are unfortunately running out of time, but Peter, I just want to get one final thought from you. Are there words that are used to describe men that offend you?
Not particularly, and if there are some I don't like, I certainly wouldn't want them banned. But it always goes back to that old adage: sticks and stones may break my bones, but there will always be something to offend a feminist.
We are back now with the one and only Judy Steinlein, whose show Judge Judy launched its 22nd season last September. #1 show, #1 TV personality. You've said, and I agree with you, one of the reasons your show is so successful is people love seeing a woman in control. And boy, is that a timely sentiment now. And yet you said you never considered yourself a feminist. Why is that? And do you get the same kind of pushback in saying that I do? Because I've said the same.
I get pushback. You have to listen to it. You're younger. I don't listen to it because I'm older. Because when I was growing up and going to school and being a lawyer and trying to become a judge and becoming a judge and then becoming a supervising judge, I didn't do it through any organization. And I think it takes away from your own self-worth if you say, I did it based on the work of a larger group. Now, it's nice to have it's like having a large family, family being a safety net for you. It's nice to have a safety net. But if you don't have your own self-worth and forge forward yourself, that safety net, all it can do is give you the bottom. You have to push it through yourself. And I think that that's what makes me say, I'm really not a feminist, I'm an individualist. I think that individuals each have within themselves the capacity to be the hero of their own story. It doesn't always have to be a star of a television program to be the hero of your own story. You want to be a doctor, a lawyer, an Indian chief, whatever you want to be, you can be the best at it, be the most recognized in that profession or vocation. That makes you the hero of your story.
That's right. You can be a burger flipper and be the best darn burger flipper they've ever seen.
Be a great family person, be a great parent, be a great child, be a great citizen, be a great volunteer. That can make you a hero. That doesn't take a village. That takes an individual spirit. And I think everybody has it within themselves to do that.
What do you make of the MeToo movement?
I think it was necessary. Being a part-time person who lived in California, I can tell you one thing. Harvey Weinstein never put a hit on me. I'm speaking from a different perspective. As a young lawyer, I remember going into courtrooms and a couple of male judges saying, "Oh, you have great legs," and I don't, but you have great legs. That's a great looking suit. And what I said was, "Thank you." It didn't make me feel uncomfortable. Now it does. I think that the Me Too movement is an important place to jump off, and I don't think it should infect the workplace so that men and women can't interact naturally with each other anymore. Because I recall I do breaks at work where I have charity auction winners who come to the set. We day at the set, and we have lunch together for various charities. We do it once a week. And I was taking a picture with one of the men, and I put my hand on his shoulder. He looked at me. We were sitting to take the picture. And I said, I would never have thought about that being inappropriate, but for now. So I think that the Me Too movement is an important movement, and I don't think it should be abused. So, that's it.
Yeah, because you can go too far to where you diminish just normal human interaction and kindness.
And keep in mind, that was actually a few years ago. So it's actually happened before 2020. This video is about 7 years old, where Judy talks about this. And guys, M2 was a total load of BS, because now you have women who are complaining that they're going home with guys. They're like, okay, well, if we go back to your place, nothing's going to happen. And then they go back to the guy's place and literally nothing happens. And then they get pissed off about it. Like, this is how modern women are. Or for example, women are like, when we used to go to the club, guys used to always, get really close to them, and they were always very upset about it. And now they go out and men are basically avoiding them. Men do not touch them. Men do not go anywhere, do not get in their vicinity. And they're like, they want to be respected, but come on, at least come up to them a bit, at least engage with them, at least dance with them, And it's basically a load of hawk tooey, it's a load of total BS. All right, it's nonsense what they're saying, and it's guys, it was never a man's place or never a man's job to make a woman happy. And a lot of men forgot that, because the media has constantly perpetuated and society has perpetuated that it is the job of men to make women happy. The guys, do you know the guys that actually make women happy? Chad and Tyrone. These are the men that make women the least happy. They break their hearts. These are toxic men, and women love these men, because these men are low-value men that give women a variety of different emotions. I'm telling you guys, it's a sad reality, but it's a reality that we now live in, and it's a reality we now have to understand. Women absolutely did this to themselves. And just like an old friend of mine used to say, when the men basically start to fly away, it's like a chicken coop where you have the rooster, and the rooster will fly away. He'll basically fly to the top of the barn. So he'll fly away and he'll leave the chickens behind. And basically, when the rooster flies away, the chickens begin to henpeck one another, because the rooster is now gone, and they begin to leverage blame against each other for why the rooster has left. This is guys, if you leave women alone for too long without men, they will basically go off on one another, and they begin to henpeck, and they fall apart. Something that happened recently? So, for example, they've done this experiment multiple times where they've taken men and women, and they put men in one island, women on another island, or they separated the men and the women. and naturally the men basically find a way to survive while the women struggle to survive. Guess what Mr. Beast did recently? He decided that he was going to recreate this experiment, but this is the nonsense. He's like, it's men and women, men versus women, and whoever survives the longest is going to win $500,000. When you observe the men and the women that he chose, the guys that he chose are a bunch of goofballs, and the women that he chose are a bunch of survival experts. And then he calls it equal. For example, the guys that he chose are struggling to build even the most basic of shelters, while the women that he chose are building teepees. Does that make any sense whatsoever? So you're telling me you just randomly chose from like 5 men and 5 women, and the women are all survival experts. They know how to boil water, they know how to build shelters, they know how to do all of these things, they know how to ration food, and then you have a bunch of men who don't know how to do any of these things. Guys, it's a load of absolute crap. And he did this so that he can then turn around and show that women are just as capable as men, if not more capable, and we need to break down gender stereotypes. But you didn't randomly select these people. You deliberately selected these people. You selected the worst men you could possibly find to send out as adventurers, and you chose the best women you could find to survive in the wilderness. This is the society that we live in, and it's all carefully curated. I'll tell you something about Mr. Beast, about Jimmy. There's a video where he was like on a podcast, I believe, and he says something along the lines of he got invited to an island, right? He got invited to an island. He got invited to like this place or something with these, and he basically just didn't go. Guys, like, if you don't think, like, once you reach a certain level of influence, you're basically a part of this specific group of people. Okay? And it comes down to, what are you willing to do to keep said influence? For example, if Andrew and Tristan had played ball, then they would be allowed to continue, but they were completely spreading an entirely different message anyway. They were like, the Matrix. They were basically pulling back the curtain and showing you what was going on behind there. That's the same thing that happened with Trump. Trump basically pulled back the curtain, and he basically showed you what was happening behind the curtain. And that's why he's going, experiencing a lot of the things that's going on right now, because he knows what's going on and he wants to stop it. And of course, they want to keep the party going. And who are they? The boomers. Who else would it be? It's predominantly the boomers. The boomers are having a good time. The people behind the curtain are the boomers. All right? They are the boomers. Of course, there's some other people there. They're, because it's nepotism, they're children. But it's the boomers. They've been having a good time for the last 50, 60 years. It's like, yeah, man. The party's not going to stop, man. Yeah, man. Dude's 80 years old or pushing 80, and he's still having a good time. So that's how these people operate. It's an extraordinary level of corruption. Extraordinary level of corruption.
Hi guys, I'm so sad right now because I just came to a realization. These past few days have been so hard for me, because how men say that women have toxic feminism, and you'll get to a certain age and no one will want to marry you and no one will love you. I feel like I've gotten to that point, guys. I was so hung on to this feminism thing, and I missed out on marriage and on children. And now I'm at a point in my life where I'm so bitter. I'm so jealous of people who have marriages because they are so happy and their husbands don't even cheat on them. And men are just the best. Right now is when I'm realizing I can't do without them. And right now I'm I don't care if you are rich or poor, tall, dark, handsome, ugly. I don't care, by the way. As long as you're a man and you're breathing, that's the only qualification I need, because I'm just so desperate for a husband. There's a lot of pressure around me. So if you can deal and propose, I swear I'll behave and I'll marry you immediately. I'll wash your clothes, I'll cook for you, I'll have your children, and I'll be obedient.
I'll be obedient. I'll wash your clothes for you. I'll cook for you. I'll be obedient. Did you catch that at the end, guys? The volume went down a little bit. I'll cook your food for you. I'll wash your clothes. I'll be obedient. Guys, and of course those are crocodile tears. I didn't even see an actual I didn't see a single tear, guys. These are crocodile tears. The reason why she's on social media is because she's trying to catch a man. All right? So she's basically trying to, and this draws attention to her. Men will see it, and there's always going to be some simp who's like, okay, yeah, it looks like she's learned her lesson. I'll go jump on that. I'll grab a plane. I'll grab a plane ticket and fly over there and, become an idiot. Go be an idiot. That's the absolute reality right now when it comes to men in Western society. All right? A lot of these dudes have no self-control. There's a lot of these simps. But like I said, guys, the simp economy is moving overseas. The simp economy is 100% moving overseas. Okay? And all of these women that are out here like they don't need no man and they don't care and they're living their best lives and they're happy being single. There was a show in the 90s called Living Single. All right? And in the end, all of those women were miserable and they all needed a man. They all needed a man. The reality of it is, guys, that women cannot survive without men. All right? Because even men need the help of other men to survive in society. Okay? And while I don't agree with everything that Jordan Peterson says, he comprehends there's no society without men. Women believe that they hold up half the sky. Guys, when women went out, guys, men have built all the bridges, all the roads, all the pavement. If you look at the video game on the screen right now and you see the grass and texture and all of this stuff that's been maintained, it was men who maintained that. A lot of that grass that was planted by men. All right? All of those plants that are being maintained, because if they were not being maintained, if it was not being cut, it would be like a forest. That's also done by men. Okay? Everything that we see, the cars are built by men. All the engineers, everything was done by men. But guys, we live in a society now where women can basically slander men and get away with it. Look at what's happening in the UK. I will never stop talking about it, where boys will now basically be hauled off to jail just for simply, if they are even suspected of being susceptible to the influence of the manosphere or extreme misogyny. They will be taken into custody by the Department of Terrorism. So basically, men are now being punished for this, even under the suspicion of having thoughts related to masculinity. All right, or toxic masculinity would be deemed toxic masculinity or extreme misogyny, and essentially anything, guys. If you can be reported to the Department of Terrorism for just being suspected of being susceptible, what the hell does that mean? That means that you can it's a witch hunt where the person doesn't even have to be guilty. They don't have to have done anything wrong. They are possibly susceptible to it. So now they're a terrorist and they need to be held. This is basically a situation where women can just point at any man right now and say, go and get him. Any boy right now and say, go and get him. Any girl, any woman or girl can do this now. This is what they have done. Guys, this is only going to lead to extraordinary hardship for women over the coming years. Almost half of all women between the ages of 25 and 44 will be childless and single come 2030 in the United States. You're going to have a lot of women who are going to be in extraordinary states of destitution, poverty, homelessness, living in their cars, living in shelters, living in the woods, living in the streets. It's going to be bad out there. And of course, they're going to be putting up videos on social media acting like they're living their best lives as they're living in shelters, as they're pretending to be happy. I already told you guys. We saw it years ago. There's a video. I don't have it for you. And even if I did have it for you, the person who made the video, these people are just kind of jokey, kind of wonky. So I don't even know if I'd play it. But the interviewer, he went into the sewers and he was interviewing these people in the sewers, and he came across this woman. She looked like she was in her 60s, but she could have been in her 50s, and just was like really rough. And she was living in the sewers, and he basically said to her, like, bro, you're living in the sewers. What's going on here? Why don't you have a husband? Why don't you have a family? And she basically said that she's not going to get into a relationship with a man, until she finds a man that she knows that she deserves, and she's not going to settle for just any man. And she started going on about this. She went down this path, and the interviewer, and this dangerous down there, literally flipped on her. He's like, listen, Susan, stop it right now, Susan. Stop it. Okay? You are living in the sewers. She's like, I don't care. I'm going to get what I want one way or another, and that's it. I'm not going to compromise. She broke down into tears, refusing to compromise. That's delusion, my friends. A lot of these people are living in extraordinary states of delusion, and they will not stop until they will. Guys, basically, it's like this. They are not going to retire until they are retired. Okay? So many women who are in their 60s and 70s now are still telling young women that they never got married, they never had children, they prioritized their careers, and they're doing wonderful. They are doing absolutely wonderful, and women can enjoy these lives too, and they have their peace. And yet, guys, when men walk away, women basically fall down and fall into pieces. It's amazing how women will complain about hardships and all of these and all of these things. Women experience loneliness much worse than men do. Because as men, we basically learn how to live with it and cope with it. We learn how to be alone. We learn how to deal with it. We find ways to not only entertain ourselves, but to deal with the prospects of it. A lot of men who are struggling with being alone, it's because they do not have inner peace. You do not have inner peace, and then they have fear that's been put into them. I grew up with a lot of fear. My parents, the boomers, ruined my life. It's crazy when I see guys who are much older than me. I'm in my early 40s. I'm a Zennial. I don't give a fuck what anyone says. I grew up during the Gen X era. That's who I am, all right? And I will say this. It's crazy when I see men who are much older than I am, who are more than 10 years older than I am, or who are almost 20 years older than I am, because the first of Gen X, they're going to be 60 next year, and they are still talking about the damage that the boomers did to them and the psychological impact of the boomers. And that touches me so much, because it's the collective suffering is there. Some of them said like, oh, I don't care. And a lot of them are just coping. But when you see when I see guys who are 20 years older than me, or almost not 20, but almost 20 years older than me, or, and I see like the state that they're currently in because of the harm that the boomers did to them, the damage, the psychological damage, that it just kind of makes me almost want to tear up. Because even at my age, it's like guys, we just keep the Gen Xers are the most balanced group of people, because they had to persevere, they had to push on one way or another. They were basically put through the fire and the ringer, and they were the ones who survived. Many of you don't even know about how many Gen Xers Control Alt deleted themselves. A lot. Many of you don't know how many Gen Xers got Control Alt deleted, all right, and didn't make it to adulthood. A lot. Many Gen Xers did not survive. All right, guys, we just don't talk about it. It's insane how many people I know, all right, that were family members, friends, neighbors who were Gen Xers. They're not here. They never made it to adulthood. They never made it to adulthood, or if they did, they were gone by like very early adulthood. Very early, like we're talking about like by 2021, they were no longer here. That's just how things were for Gen X. And we didn't talk about it. We just basically kept it moving, and we had to keep on pushing on and throgging and going through life. The boomers think that they were great parents. I want you guys to understand. The boomers think that they did good, and they don't give a damn, because they're not going to be here in the future. So they're like, oh, well, These are bad, very bad, very selfish people. You can already see that Gen Z is going to be very much like the boomers when it comes to parenting. They're going to emotionally and maybe even physically create very serious problems when it comes to their children. Like the boomers beat the living hell out of us. My father almost broke my skull open. It would have been better if he had used his knuckles than based on what he did. All right? He wanted to make sure that he could kill me. Like this is how, guys, the boomers treated us worse than dogs. Like we would have had better protection. We would have done better if we, as growing up, we had something like, the animal cruelty department watching over us, the way that they do over animals. Because the boomers treated us much worse than animals. The boomers are horrible people. They're not good people as a generation. They did such nasty things to us. They treated us so poorly. They took such advantage of us. They stole from us even. People don't know who these people are. I will never stop talking about my gripes against the boomers. I say don't hate them because it's not worth it. It's a waste of time. And I'm going to tell you something. These people are still blaming their parents that gave them absolutely everything. I tell you, women never took accountability for anything. They've never taken accountability, and they've never been held accountable for anything. They're just going to break down into tears and blame someone else when things don't work out for them. That's their game plan. And what do you have? They're blaming feminism and blaming each other. They will never take any accountability. They never will. They never have. They never will, because that's how women have been conditioned. Women have been conditioned to believe that they will always be given a way out. They will always be bailed out of every bad decision that they make. And no matter how bad it gets for them, they're not going to take accountability because that's not something they've ever learned how to do. If you were not raised as a child to take accountability for the things that you say and do, if you are not held accountable, and you are told that you are perfect and put on this pedestal, by the time you are in your 30s or 40s, it's impossible. You're not going to learn how to be accountable. You're going to revert to what you've always known how to do best, which is cry and use shame, insults, guilt, gaslighting, because, you need to be right. Guys, I just want to remind you, we have our Substacks community, our Angry Guy Clubhouse. There's a link to our community, the Angry Guy Clubhouse, in the description of the video. We've got all kinds of great articles on here. I write daily articles for you guys. We have everything from millions of boomers are ending up homeless to how to build a thriving business empire, or is DEI backfiring, the unintended consequences of women in society, consequences on women in society. We have podcasts for you guys, so you can check those out. We have extended videos from YouTube. And again, we also have our guide section. So if you want to learn something, you head over to our guides. And then we have our general archive of all of the articles and videos and podcasts we've put out so far. And you can go check that out, jump in there and gain some value. There's a link to it in the description of the video. It's really awesome. We also have chat. So if you want to talk to me, you can chat with me on there. But I mean, guys, this is the reality. Women are blaming each other for feminism, and they're not going to stop. Let me know your thoughts. We'll talk about it in the comments. Like the video if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you like the video, share the video. And just remember that all roads lead to MWA, men walking away. And cheers.